The human drive to mechanize thought has endured from myth to modernity. From Talos, the bronze servant of Hephaestus, to Ramon Lull's Ars Magna, from Leibniz's dream of a calculus ratiocinator, to Shelley's Frankenstein. Each generation has reimagined intelligence divorced from its human container. In 1950, Alan Turing asked, "Can machines think?" And in 1956, the term artificial intelligence was coined by John McCarthy. Today, less than 70 years on, we find ourselves no longer speculating about intelligent machines, but deploying them, often uncritically, across nearly every sphere of public and private life, including education. The urgency with which higher education institutions have adopted AI systems suggests not only a desire to innovate, but a desperation. The hope to resolve entrenched problems of scalability, cost, and performance through automation. Which raises a troubling question. Are we enhancing pedagogy with AI, or just outsourcing it? For my linguistically and culturally diverse international students, the risks of AI reinforcing surface-level engagement, undermining critical literacy, are not abstractions, they are lived. UNESCO 2021 posits that teacher-facing AI is the Cinderella of higher education, and if we don't design it with teachers in mind, we risk eroding the very human capacities that AI can never replace. To mitigate this research proposal argues that if artificial intelligence is to become what I call the answer oris machina, the artificial golden goose, then it must be interrogated by teachers through the vital lens of Sotto's commitment to reflexivity, contextualism, and methodological pluralism. As AI's uncertain stewards, the teachers, the tutors, the scholars of teaching and learning are at present caught between wonder and concern, and it is at this crossroads where my proposal begins. I'm not asking does AI work, but rather how AI works, for whom, and with what consequences. The aim of this project is to enhance my practice through the development of a more nuanced understanding of the pedagogical, experiential, and ethical dimensions of AI-enabled adaptive learning within an international EAP classroom. Specifically, I will examine how Kaplan's AI-enabled KTE system shapes student engagement and academic literacy, and how both students and educators interpret its pedagogical and ethical implications. This research is guided by two core questions. How does the KTE AI-enabled adaptive learning system influence student engagement and academic literacy performance during a 5-week intervention? And how do students and educators interpret the pedagogical value, limitations, and ethical implications of the KTE system within this EAP context? These questions deliberately bridge quantitative outcomes with qualitative insights, responding to Sotto's call for interrogative, contextually grounded research. They also align with my and my institution's priorities on ethical innovation, inclusivity, and evidence-informed teaching. AI within HE is a socio-technical phenomenon entangled in complex pedagogical, ethical, and cultural dynamics that can never be neutral. Its integration is accelerating, but remains uneven in application, with systems being deployed without sufficient support for linguistic and cultural diversity. While critical voices warn against techno-solutionism and surface-level engagement, others highlight AI's transformative potential and demonstrate its capacity to scaffold learning by adapting content and pacing. Luck et al. 2016 argue that AI can provide unprecedented personalization and real-time diagnostic feedback. Similarly, Holmes et al. 2019 show that AI can enhance formative assessment and adaptive learning when grounded in viable pedagogy. However, UNESCO 2021 cautions that many of AI's educational claims remain conjecture, speculation, and optimism. They emphasize the need for evidence rooted in local needs and benefit-risk analysis, proposing 4 key domains of AI in education: management and delivery, learning and assessment, empowering teachers, and lifelong learning. My action research approach responds directly to these concerns. RQ1 maps onto the learning and assessment domain, while RQ2 examines management, delivery, and teacher-facing AI, particularly its ethical and cultural implications. International students face unique challenges: cultural displacement, linguistic barriers, and pressure to conform to unfamiliar academic conventions. And AI-enabled tools risk reinforcing surface-level literacy over critical literacy. There is therefore a need for pedagogically informed, ethically aware approaches to AI within EAP, particularly given the under-theorized nature of adaptive technologies within transnational classrooms. Studies by Kukulska-Hulma et al. 2020 and Clegg et al. 2023 call for a critical AI pedagogy that centers learner agency, ethical reflexivity, and socio-cultural context, but through the techno-solutionist lens there remains a disconnect between the pedagogical complexity of language learning and the reductive frameworks often used to evaluate AI's effectiveness. This research speaks to this disconnect by combining empirical outcome tracking with qualitative, reflexive inquiry, producing evidence that is not just about whether AI works, but about how its use is interpreted, resisted, and reshaped by real students and educators. In parallel, SOTL scholarship has increasingly recognized the need to move beyond purely empirical or discipline-specific models toward methodologically pluralistic and context-responsive research. This SOTL project sits between what Kabudi et al. 2021 describe as enterprise AI integration, focused on efficiency and scalability, and what educational researchers often demand is situated pedagogical insight. It contributes to an emerging body of critical AI-enabled adaptive learning research that foregrounds learner voice, ethical complexity, and meaningful academic development. By applying Bernstein's 2018 framework for internal and external validity alongside action research cycles, this project not only ensures that its findings will fill UNESCO's evidence gap by being directly responsive to the lived realities of international students, but that this research repositions AI not as another disembodied intelligence, but as a pedagogical actor whose values, assumptions, and affordances must be continuously interrogated. This action research project adopts a pragmatic mixed methods design, grounded in SOTL and informed by the realities of teaching international students within an EAP context. The approach combines quantitative and qualitative methods within a classroom-based intervention using Kaplan's AI-enabled KTE system. Rather than testing AI in abstraction, this project investigates how AI-enabled adaptive learning functions in practice with real students in real time, and how real learners and educators interpret its pedagogical and ethical implications. It aligns with SOTL's emphasis on practice-led, context-sensitive inquiry, allowing for a balanced exploration of measurable outcomes and lived experiences. Following Bernstein's 2018 ethical framework, the study addresses both internal validity, ensuring that observed shifts in student engagement and literacy development can be directly linked to the intervention, and external validity, reflecting on how insights from this specific international context might inform broader institutional practices. The study will take place in a single EAP classroom at a UK International Pathway College. Around 20 to 25 international students will participate in the AI-supported intervention, with 3 to 5 educators contributing their professional perspectives. These learners represent a range of linguistic and cultural backgrounds, making this a rich site for examining adaptive learning within diverse contexts. Kaplan's KTE adaptive assessment tool will be embedded into a 5-week teaching sequence. The tool will deliver AI-driven feedback and personalized scaffolding, supported by learning activities designed to foreground transparency, inclusivity, and alignment with intended learning outcomes. The intervention will follow an iterative and responsive cycle, allowing refinements based on student feedback and observed engagement. And yes, while all of this might sound wonderful, there is the small issue of permission, so some or much of this might change depending on the allowances and affordances of my institution. A convergent mixed methods approach will be used to explore both outcomes and experiences. In terms of quantitative data, I will be gathering platform engagement metrics, selected student performance data, pre- and post-intervention task scores, and where possible, the effect sizes will be calculated to indicate the magnitude of observed changes. In terms of qualitative data, I will be conducting semi-structured interviews with a sample of students and staff. Reflective prompts will be embedded within the learning sequence, and a brief post-intervention survey will be conducted, focusing on trust, fairness, and perceptions of AI. Quantitative data will be analysed descriptively to identify engagement trends and performance shifts. Qualitative data will be analysed using reflexive thematic analysis, following Braun and Clark's 2006 six-phase framework, and researcher journaling will enhance both credibility and reflexivity. Findings will be integrated through joint displays aligning engagement metrics with qualitative themes to develop meta-inferences about convergence or divergence across data sources. A provisional timeline for all of this is as follows. Beyond being feasible and institutionally relevant, operating within the constraints of existing teaching and assessment frameworks while offering transferable insights, this design is justified for three main reasons. Alignment with SOTL. It integrates empirical measurement with practitioner reflection, addressing complex classroom dynamics. Bernstein's validity framework. The project will ensure internal validity and external validity. Action research cycles. Iterative planning, action, and reflection will allow real-time adjustments, ensuring authenticity and responsiveness. The small sample and single site will be addressed through thick description and analytic generalization. Researcher bias will be managed through reflexive journaling, peer debriefing, and member checking. Platform opacity will be documented explicitly. And the lack of a control group means that all findings will be framed as plausible contributions. Ethical approval will be sought via Kaplan Centre for Innovation and Quality and the University of Glasgow. And ethics are embedded throughout the design, following the BERA guidelines and relevant institutional frameworks, including participants will provide informed consent and have the right to withdraw at any point. All data will be anonymised and managed under GDPR principles. My dual role as educator and researcher will be mitigated through independent consent facilitation, anonymised feedback channels, and reassurance that participation is optional. All materials and communications will be accessible and culturally sensitive, and ongoing research journaling and peer review will ensure critical engagement with both AI tools and the potential bias of my dual role. Additionally, consent will be separated from assessment pressure, and I acknowledge that my interpretation of engagement and academic literacy is shaped by my institutional goals and my own teaching philosophy. This project offers a timely, authentic contribution to SOTL. Firstly, it addresses the pressing pedagogical challenge of how to navigate the promises and pitfalls of AI use in linguistically diverse learning spaces. Secondly, it foregrounds student voice, agency, and experience. Thirdly, it models a methodologically coherent, ethically robust, and institutionally relevant research design. The outputs of this project will be a staff CPD workshop and a short policy brief offering recommendations for ethical and inclusive AI-enabled adaptive learning deployment within EAP, and a joint display and reflexivity protocol for small-scale AI-focused SOTL studies. This project is not about automating pedagogy, but about ensuring pedagogy governs automation. It's about pedagogical values and human agency shaping AI integration within the classroom. It seeks to open up reflective, evidence-informed conversations about what ethical, inclusive, and meaningful AI use within higher education should look like. If AI is to become our answer oris machina, the metaphorical golden goose, then it must be shaped by teachers through ethical and reflexive scholarship. Thank you for listening.